Hey, this is Nicky G and welcome to Better Commander. Today we're taking on a Halfling Knight with a $100 budget deck with Mazzy, True Sword Paladin. Before we get too deep into this really rad little lady, take a second to subscribe to my channel. You know, I'm deep into magic, I love puzzling out deck lists that really work, and I love saving you money and talking about cards. I couldn't find any lore on this little lady, so let's make some up. Mazzy was the star of a traveling band of minstrels, right? She discovered an impossible talent named Bruce Springsteen. Bruce used the magic of his voice to melt mountains and change the course of rivers. But during contract negotiations with the label, Bruce got really specific about his rider and had an argument and ended up locking Mazzy and her minstrels in a cave. She lived there for 1,000 years under a curse of eternal life. When she got out, a hermit druid gave her the true sword, and she used it to slay Bruce Springsteen. Anyways, Mazzy, True Sword Paladin. I don't know why I say sword like that. 1 red, green, and a white for a legendary creature. It's a Halfling Knight, 3/4. Whenever an enchanted creature attacks one of your opponents, it gets +2/+0 and gains trample until the end of turn. Whenever an aura you control is put in your graveyard from the battlefield, exile it. Until the end of your next turn, you may cast that card. Wow, this is a fantastic creature, and your auras get a second chance if they get removed or if the creature that was wearing them get removed. I recently made a Light-paws deck that used many of the same strategies. Needless to say, Light-paws is also in this deck, but check that video out as well. I'll put a link here. So for this deck we want auras, we want enchantresses, which can be defined as creatures that draw us cards when enchantments enter the battlefield or on cast, and we want creatures that wear the auras well. So I played this deck a little bit today. It did really well for how cheap it is. It's a very powerful focus strategy that seems a little non-threatening at first. So let's take a look at our card advantage engine. So first is going to be Eidolon of Blossoms, probably one of the best cards in the deck. 2 green for an enchantment creature. It's a spirit, 2/2. Has Constellation. Whenever Eidolon of Blossoms or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. Definitely one of the best enchantresses. It triggers the other enchantresses, it draws on ETB, and whenever another enchantment ETB is under our control. Okay, so Mesa Enchantress, Satyr Enchanter, and Verdurn Enchantress are all basically the same card. They are absolutely the backbone of the deck. The majority of our spells are 2 to 3 mana, so having every one drawing us a few cards will keep our hands full and the battlefield very crowded. Setessan Champion, very similar to Eidolon of Blossoms. This thing gets huge and also triggers on ETB, not cast. This is a great creature to wear auras and keeps our hands full at the same time. Okay, Enchantress's Presence is 2 and a green for an enchantment. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, draw a card. This Rebecca Gway art is fantastic and so classic. Sith's Harvest Hand is green and a white for a legendary enchantment creature. It's a nymph, 1/2. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you gain 1 life and draw a card. This is another variation on the classic Enchantress, and she looks cool. She's shooting plant energy at a 45-degree angle, so hey, get in the deck. Season of Growth is 1 and a green for an enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, scry 1, which is going to be definitely relevant in this deck. Whenever you cast a spell that targets a creature you control, draw a card. So this does a lot for 2 mana. Auras target when cast, so you get to draw on each cast of your auras. Never ever forget about SRAM. Never. SRAM Senior Edificer is 1 and a white for a legendary creature. He's a Dwarf Advisor, 2/2. Whenever you cast an aura, equipment, or vehicle spell, draw a card. I don't care about equipments or vehicles, but this guy does it all. He's chilling in there in the workshop, he's smoking stogies, and he's drawing us a billion cards. Okay, so those are our draw engines. What are some awesome creatures to enchant and some enchantment payoffs? So first we have a Johnny's Chosen, 2 white for a creature. It's a cat soldier, 3/3. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, create a 2/2 white cat creature token. If that enchantment is an aura, you may attach it to the token. Pretty cool card. Alright, is it Archon or Archon? I say Archon of Sun's Grace. 2 white and a white for a creature, it's an Archon, 3/4. Flying, lifelink. Pegasus creatures you control have lifelink, and whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, create a 2/2 white Pegasus creature token with flying. These 2 creatures, the Johnny's Chosen and Archon of Sun's Grace, pay off our auras entering with some really dope little tokens. They're good targets for our auras. The Archon is so much better, but both are fine in a budget deck. How's about Sigil of the Empty Throne, 3 white for an enchantment. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying. This is just a fun card to put our beefy evasive angels. They come down ready to party, wear auras. It's kind of a cool card in an enchantment deck. Oh, here she comes, Daneth the Capuchin Paragon, 2 white for a creature, human knight. Legendary, first strike, vigilance, lifelink. It's a 2/2. Aura and equipment spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Danitha does so much in a deck like this. She's got 3 relevant abilities, she's got a stained glass sword, and she's an awesome target for our auras. How about this maniac, Eidolon of Countless Battles. This guy's just coming from SEAL Team 6. He's 1 white for an enchantment creature spirit. Has bestow, 2 white. If you cast this card for its bestow cost, it's an aura spell with enchant creature. It becomes a creature again if it's not attached to a creature. Eidolon of Countless Battles and enchanted creature get +1/+1 for each creature you control and +1/+1 for each aura you control. This guy is an aura, and he, she, it can wear auras very nicely. Alright, Hero of Eros is 1 and a white for a creature, human soldier. It's a 2/2. Aura spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Awesome. Whenever you cast a spell that targets Hero of Eros, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Like Danitha, this is both cost reduction and a relevant body. Plus this dude's wearing boxing gloves, he's looking like a young Tyson Fury out there. Contrast that with the Jukai Naturalist, a green and a white for an enchantment creature, a human monk. It's 2/2 with a lifelink. Enchantment spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. This guy's the man. He's got lifelink. He's over here smoking the vape juice of the spirit world to make our enchantments a little bit cheaper. Core Spirit Dancer is 1 and a white for a creature, Core Wizard. It's a 0/2, but it gets +2/+2 for each aura attached to it. Whenever you cast an aura spell, you may draw a card. The art is so menacing. She's got the power of 3 animals, and one of them is a goat. It's not what I would have chosen. Honestly, I probably would have picked an orangutan, but this card is still roughly $3 and is a great pickup for a deck like this. Well, here he is, Light-paws, Emperor's Voice. This card has a lot of text. It's 1 and a white for a legendary creature, Fox Advisor, 2/2. Whenever an aura enters the battlefield under your control, if you cast it, you may search your library for an aura card with mana value less than or equal to that aura, and with a different name than each aura you control. Put that card onto the battlefield attached to Light-paws, then shuffle. Okay, so worth noting that the original aura you cast does not need to target Light-paws. So our aura ramp spells can trigger this foxy little fox, or any of our aura based removal. Alright, let's talk about Rayav, Master Smith. He's a 1 and a white for a legendary creature, Dwarf or Artificer, 2/2. Whenever a creature you control that's enchanted or equipped attacks, that creature gains double strike until the end of turn. I like this guy. He's a swaggy little dwarf. He gives our opponents big problems. Wyleth, Soul of Steel, 1 red and a white for a legendary creature, a human warrior, 2/2 with trample. Whenever Wyleth, Soul of Steel attacks, draw a card for each aura and equipment attached to it. This guy is a house, and if he comes down on turn 2 or 3, he can draw an obscene amount of cards. We packed a fair amount of protection enchantments into this deck as well, so hopefully he'll stick around. So how are we going to ramp in this deck? Well, we're going to ramp with auras. They trigger our enchantresses, push our critical mass of auras upward. So this deck you want to leave Cultivate at home. Cards like Fertile Ground, 1 and a green for an enchantment aura, and enchants land. Whenever enchanted land is tapped for mana, its controller adds 1 additional mana of any color. Classic ramp card, get right in there. And Overgrowth is 2 and a green for an enchantment aura, enchant land. Whenever enchanted land is tapped for mana, its controller adds an additional green. Trace of Abundance. I had never seen this card before, so it's 1 combo red or white and a green mana for an enchantment aura, enchant land. Enchanted land has Shroud. Whenever enchanted land is tapped for mana, its controller adds an additional 1 mana of any color. And Wild Growth, 1 green for an enchantment aura, enchant land. Whenever enchanted land is tapped for mana, its controller adds an additional green mana. And finally, Sanctum Weaver, 1 and a green for an enchantment creature, Dryad. It's a 0/2. Tap, add X mana of any one color, where X is the number of enchantments you control. So this Dryad comes in and is going to get things going, and it's going in a lot of decks lately. This card can be had for $3 or so, and is really a steal at that price. Alright, so this is what the deck's really all about, our offensive auras. All that glitters is 1 and a white for an enchantment aura, enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact and or enchantment you control. There are a few cards that have similar effects. I'm going to go into them a little bit, and if you stack these up on Mazzy or any of our other creatures, this gets really big really fast. Probably an even better card in this deck, green gives us access to Ancestral Mask, 2 and a green for an enchantment aura, enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 for each other enchantment on the battlefield. This counts every enchantment, including our opponent's Rhystic Study or Smothering Tithe or whatever. Ethereal Armor is 1 white mana for an enchantment, enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each enchantment you control and has first strike. This is the 3rd copy of this effect, and it costs 1 happy little white mana. Sage's Reverie is 3 and a white for an enchantment aura, enchant creature. When Sage's Reverie enters the battlefield, draw a card for each aura you control that's attached to a creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each aura you control that's attached to the creature. So lastly is this little gem. So in an aura deck like this is searchable by Light-paws and some of our other search effects and can refill our hand so quickly. And this is a 50-cent card. Great card in this deck. Angelic Destiny is 2 white for an enchantment aura. Enchanted creature gets +4/+4 and has flying, first strike, and is an angel in addition to its other types. When enchanted creature dies, return Angelic Destiny to its owner's hand. This is cool art, it's amazing, it's a mythic. I'm surprised this isn't more widely used. This is about $5 and it's only got 2 printings. Armadillo Cloak is 1 green and a white for an enchantment aura. So enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and has trample. And whenever enchanted creature deals damage, you gain that much life. So this is a redundant and phased out version of a lifelink and triggers separately from lifelink. This is an OG invasion card, and in the art it appears that there's elves squishing Phyrexians rolling down a hill, and those guys never saw it coming, man. They're just like bowling pins. Alright, then we have the Bear Umbra, 2 green for an enchantment aura, enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and has, whenever this creature attacks, untap all lands you control, and this has totem armor. This is nasty. This is one of the most expensive cards in this deck. This essentially gives us some really explosive turns, especially if we have our draw engines online. We keep pooping out auras and drawing cards and pooping out auras, and then we go to second main phase and do the same thing. Plus there appears to be some kind of mystical dude with a staff like riding inside a phantasmal bear, which is classic Magic the Gathering. Alright, so Briar Shield, 1 green mana for an enchantment aura, enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1, so you can sacrifice Briar Shield, enchanted creature gets +3/+3 until the end of turn. So this is interesting because you can cast it, and then with Mazzy on the battlefield, you can sacrifice it to give the creature +3/+3, and then recast it with Mazzy, re-triggering all of our enchantress effects and drawing us a whole load of cards. Plus this artist just drew a straight Briar Shield, which is pretty awesome in and of itself. Alright, I included some protection effects as well. So Pentarch Ward is 2 and a white for an enchantment aura. As Pentarch Ward enters the battlefield, choose a color. Enchanted creature has protection from the chosen color. This effect doesn't remove Pentarch Ward. So when this enters the battlefield also, we draw a card. So the protection effects can really trip up our opponents because they're so seldom seen. Shield of the Oversoul is 2 and a hybrid green-white mana. It's enchantment aura, enchant creature. As long as enchanted creature is green, it gets +1/+1 and has indestructible. As long as enchanted creature is white, it gets +1/+1 and has flying. This is fantastic to get Mazzy protected and give her an insane boost and invasion for just 3 mana. Alright, so we'll highlight one more. Unquestioned Authority is 2 and a white mana for an enchantment aura. When Unquestioned Authority enters the battlefield, draw a card. Enchanted creature has protection from creatures. So this is great for 3 mana and replaces itself. It basically makes Mazzy or whoever you put this on unblockable. So when thinking about removal and removing our opponent's threats, we want to think about cards that can also trigger our enchantresses. So I included a few like Darksteel Mutation. This is 1 and a white for an enchantment aura, enchant creature. Enchanted creature is an insect artifact creature with base power and toughness 0/1 and has indestructible. It loses all other abilities, card types, and creature types. So this is going to trigger our draw engines and make it difficult for our opponents to play to their game plan if we plop this down on their commander. So this deck plays really fast, super aggressive. The balance between creatures and enchantments is very delicate, and it took some tweaking to get it just right. The initial deck list had way too many creatures, so I took them out, added more auras, and continued doing that until it really felt very smooth. Usually you're suiting up one creature to make them ridiculously huge and evasive and swinging in and drawing lots of cards. Mazzy's ability to give these huge creatures trample is so good. Keep in mind that it works for creatures your opponents control that are enchanted with one of the impetus cards or their own enchantment as well. So let me know what you all think of this super duper little enchantment commander. Goldfish the deck. I'll put the deck list in the description. It's quite satisfying to play. You're drawing tons of cards. Maybe pick it up for $100 from TCG Player. You might already have some of the pieces or upgrades as well. So thank you very much for watching, and this is going to be Nicky G from Better Commander signing off.